Every Tuesday night, Nico Salerno ate alone, same table, same time. The one night a week he sent his own security away completely. Lily had served him for 2 years. She knew exactly how he liked his espresso. She did not know he was the most dangerous man in the city. That Tuesday, a man sat down at the bar, ordered nothing, never once looked away from Nico's table. Lily noticed. She always noticed. Her father taught her that. A long time ago, before she understood why it mattered. She could not scream. She could not call out. So when she brought the bill, she circled 3 words in the corner and set it down without a single sound. Gunman behind you. Leave now. Nico's hand went completely still on the paper. And in that stillness, Lily understood exactly what kind of man she had just decided to save. Before we begin, tell us in the comments whether you would risk your life to warn a stranger. And subscribe if you believe one brave choice can change everything. Every Tuesday night, Nico Salerno ate alone. Same restaurant, same corner table, same time. It was the 1 hour each week when he dismissed every driver and guard who normally followed him through Chicago. Lily Bennett knew that at 8:15, he would walk through the door, remove his dark coat, and ask for an espresso. She had served him for 2 years. She knew he disliked sugar, preferred sparkling water without ice, and always left a folded $100 bill beneath the saucer. She did not know that half the Western freight yards answered to him, or that frightening men lowered their voices when they spoke his name. Bellario's was an upscale Italian steakhouse, where a plate of pasta cost more than Lily spent on groceries in a week. At 27, she was one of its most requested waitresses. She was a soft, chubby blonde, with bright blue eyes, quick hands, and a laugh that could rescue even the worst shift. She remembered anniversaries, allergies, favorite wines, and which older customers needed more time with the menu. Her warmth came naturally. So did her habit of noticing everything. What most customers never knew was that every extra shift went toward medical bills left behind by her father, Detective Frank Bennett. 8 years earlier, he had been off duty when he tried to stop an armed robbery. He survived the shooting, but 11 months of operations and rehabilitation could not save him. The bills remained long after his voice was gone. Frank had taught his daughter rules that sounded silly when she was a child. Always know the exits. Watch people's hands when their smiles do not reach their eyes. Never sit with your back to a door. Lily used to roll her eyes when he tested her in diners. How many exits? He would ask. Who came in after us? She had not understood that vigilance was the language he used for love. Now she could not enter a room without mapping it. Bellario's had the main entrance, a kitchen door opening into the alley, and a narrow corridor leading to the wine cellar. On Tuesdays, she noticed another routine. Just before Nico arrived, Antonio, the maître d', stepped outside to make a private call. He always returned tense, but Antonio owed money to half the staff, so Lily assumed the call concerned another debt. That night, he slipped away at 8:12. Nico entered 3 minutes later. He was in his late 30s, tall and broad-shouldered, wearing a perfectly fitted charcoal suit. Dark ink showed above his collar and across the fingers of his right hand. His face was clean-shaven, controlled, and quietly handsome. "Long day, Mr. Salerno?" Lily asked. Nico sat beneath the brass clock and glanced at her with faint amusement. "You ask me that every Tuesday, and every Tuesday you avoid answering. Then why keep asking? Hope is free. It's the only thing at Bellario's that is." Something warm touched his expression, then disappeared. "How was your night, Lily?" He always asked that before ordering. It was a small courtesy, perhaps meaningless to him, but in 2 years he had never forgotten. She told him about the lost engagement ring. He listened, ordered the ribeye, and let the room settle around him. Neither noticed Antonio return through the side corridor, tuck away his phone, and refuse to meet Nico's eyes. At 8:47, the front door opened again. The night outside was unusually warm, but the man who entered wore a heavy black coat buttoned to his throat. He did not wait for the hostess. He crossed directly to the bar, chose a stool facing the antique mirror, and ordered a club soda. When the bartender placed it down, the man never touched the glass. Lily noticed the coat first, then the hands. Thin leather gloves on a warm night. His left hand rested flat on the bar. while his right stayed hidden beside his body. He appeared to be studying the bottles reflected in the mirror, but his eyes never moved with the bartender. They remained fixed on one point behind him. Lily followed the angle through the reflection and felt something cold pass through her chest. The stranger was not watching the door, the staff, or the wealthy diners surrounding him. He was watching Nico Salerno. Lily carried a tray past the bar and forced herself not to stare. As she moved, the stranger shifted slightly, keeping Nico's corner table in view. His untouched club soda left a wet ring on the polished wood. Nico sat with his back to him, cutting into his steak and reading something on his phone. There were no guards at the door, no driver waiting beside the window, no one scanning the room except Lily. She saw the stranger's right elbow lift beneath the coat. Then she caught a brief, hard shape pressing against the fabric near his ribs. Her father's voice returned as clearly as if he were standing beside her. "Watch the hands." A scream would make the man draw. Running to Nico would do the same. The nearest telephone was behind the bar, 4 feet from the stranger, and Lily's own phone was locked in her locker. She glanced toward Antonio, but the maitre d' was speaking to a couple near the entrance and would never reach Nico in time. The stranger's fingers disappeared deeper inside his coat. Whatever Lily was going to do, she had seconds. She stepped behind the service station and printed Nico's check, though he had not asked for it. Her hands wanted to shake, but she pressed them against the counter until they obeyed her. She found a red pen beside the reservation book and turned the check over. 5 words, nothing more. Anything longer might keep his eyes on the paper too long. She wrote them carefully, then drew one firm circle around the warning. "Gunman behind you. Leave now." For one terrible moment, Lily stared at the sentence and understood what it could cost her. If she was wrong, she could lose her job and humiliate herself in front of the restaurant's most important customer. If she was right, and the gunman saw the message, she might not reach the kitchen alive. Then the stranger shifted off his stool. Lily closed the leather check holder, placed it on a small silver tray, and walked toward Nico's table. She did not rush. She did not look toward the bar. She wore the same calm smile she used when bringing someone dessert, even as every step seemed to echo through her body. "Your check, Mr. Salerno," she said, setting the tray beside his hand. Nico looked at the unfinished meal, and then at her. Lily held his gaze 1 second longer than a waitress normally would. She tapped the leather cover once with her finger, and stepped half a pace to the side, placing her body between his table and the mirror. Nico opened the folder. His eyes moved across the 5 circled words. His hand went completely still. He did not turn around. He did not reach inside his jacket or glance toward an exit. The only change was in his face. The quiet customer Lily had served for 2 years vanished, and something colder appeared beneath his calm, something disciplined and dangerous enough to frighten her more than panic would have. Without lifting his eyes from the check, Nico spoke so softly that she almost missed it. "The man at the bar?" Lily gave the smallest nod. Nico folded the check once, buying himself another second, and then asked the last question she expected. "Are you willing to help me, Lily? Or would you rather I handle this alone?" Lily's first instinct was to step away. She was a waitress, not a police officer. But then she pictured the couples seated between Nico and the bar, the elderly man celebrating his birthday, and the young woman wearing the engagement ring Lily had rescued. If one shot went wild, innocent people would pay for it. She kept her smile fixed and whispered, "Tell me what you need." Nico's eyes remained on the check. Walk toward the bar with an empty tray. When you reach the brass pillar, let it fall, and keep moving toward the kitchen. Do not stop. Do not look back. Lily glanced at the pillar 6 steps from the gunman. It would briefly block his view. "How much time will that give you?" Nico folded the check and slipped it inside his coat. 2 seconds, he said. "But only if you trust me." Lily picked up a silver tray. Her legs felt heavy as she crossed the dining room between chairs she had passed 1,000 times. The gunman watched her in the mirror. His gloved hand remained beneath his coat, and his shoulders tightened when she entered his line of sight. Lily forced herself to breathe. 1 step, then another. At the brass pillar, she caught her shoe against its base and let the tray strike the floor. The crash snapped through Bellario's like a gunshot. Every nearby face turned, including the gunman's. Lily stumbled forward, blocking the mirror for one moment. Nico was already moving. He caught the stranger's hidden wrist before the weapon cleared his coat and drove him against the bar. A black pistol slid across the wood. Nico trapped the man's arm behind his back, beside his untouched drink. The gunman never had the chance to fire. Most diners thought they had witnessed a drunken fight. Only Lily, the bartender, and Antonio saw the pistol before Nico covered it with a bar towel. "Call the police," Nico told the bartender. The gunman struggled once, then stopped when Nico whispered something Lily could not hear. Whatever he said replaced the stranger's anger with real fear. Antonio hurried over, pale and sweating. "Mr. Salerno, I had no idea. I never saw him come in." Nico watched him for half a second too long. "Then pay closer attention to your own dining room." Sirens rose beyond the windows. Nico took the stranger's phone, handed the pistol to Bellario's security chief, and released the man when 2 officers entered. Questions filled the room, but Nico did not wait to answer them. He disappeared through the kitchen. Lily stood by the service station, trying to steady a glass of water. The danger had ended without blood, yet her body had not received the message. Her knees shook. She had just helped disarm a gunman. Worse, she had watched Nico do it with the ease of someone who had faced weapons before. The customer who asked about her shift was not merely a freight executive. She remembered how the gunman's fear changed when Nico whispered to him, and the truth settled inside her. Nico was perhaps more dangerous than the man at the bar. "Lily," his voice came from behind her. She turned, spilling water across her fingers. Nico stood in the kitchen doorway with his coat over one arm. He had returned for her. "Why did you help me?" he asked, sounding not suspicious but genuinely confused. Lily looked across the restaurant at the frightened customers. "Because there were 30 innocent people in this room," she said. "And because you always ask about my night before you ask for your check. Nobody else does that." Nico studied her, as if the answer made less sense than any lie she could have offered. "That is a small thing." Lily shook her head. "Not when people spend all day looking through you." For the first time in 2 years, he looked at her properly. Not at her uniform, not at the coffee in her hand, but at the woman standing inside it. Something guarded shifted behind his eyes. Then it closed again. He reached into his coat and gave her a plain black card. A telephone number was printed in silver across the center. "No name, no company. This reaches me directly," he said. "Do not go home tonight." Lily stiffened. "Why?" Nico glanced toward the arrested man. "Because whoever sent him saw you place that check on my table. Once they learn he failed, they will want to know what you saw." Nico offered her a room at a hotel owned by one of his companies, a driver, and 2 women from his staff who could remain nearby without frightening her. Lily refused all 3. She had saved him, but she did not know him. Going willingly to a place he controlled felt almost as dangerous as returning to her apartment. "I appreciate the warning, Mr. Salerno, but I can take care of myself." His jaw tightened. "Your father taught you to notice danger. He should also have taught you not to walk back into it." The mention of Frank startled her. She had never told Nico that her father was a detective. "How do you know about him?" Nico's expression revealed nothing. "I make it my business to know the names of people who save my life." He stepped closer, lowering his voice. "If you refuse my help, at least call that number when you reach home. And if anything feels wrong, do not wait to be certain." Lily slipped the card into her apron. "You make every thank you sound like an order." The faintest smile touched his mouth. People tend to live longer when they listen. At 11:30, Lily unlocked the door to her 3rd-floor apartment and checked the narrow hallway before stepping inside. Nothing appeared disturbed. Her father's framed photograph still stood beside the lamp. The old baseball cap he used to wear remained hanging from the coat hook because she had never found the courage to move it. Lily locked the deadbolt, fastened the chain, and called Nico's number. He answered before the first ring finished. "I'm home," she said. "Door locked, windows locked. Nobody followed me." There was a pause. "Keep the card beside you." Lily almost asked where he was, but stopped herself. "Good night, Mr. Salerno." "Nico," he corrected softly. After the call ended, she changed clothes and sat on the edge of her bed, replaying every second at Bellario's. She told herself the danger had belonged to the restaurant. She told herself the arrested gunman would lead the police to whoever had sent him. She told herself Nico had frightened her, because frightening people was how he stayed alive. Lily believed those things, until someone knocked on her door 12 minutes after midnight. The knock was controlled and polite. 3 even taps, followed by silence. Lily reached for Nico's card, but did not touch the lock. "Who is it?" 2 men stood beyond the peephole, both wearing dark coats. Neither wore a police uniform. The taller one looked directly at the door, as if he knew she was watching. "Miss Bennett," he said calmly, "we only need a few minutes." Lily's pulse began to pound. "Show me your badges." The men exchanged a glance, and the second one slowly moved his hand behind his coat. Lily backed away and dialed Nico's number. Would you have opened that door, or trusted Nico's warning? Tell us in the comments by writing "Never ignore a warning," because Lily was about to discover how far one act of courage could follow her. Before the call connected, the tall man leaned closer to the wood and lowered his voice. "We are not the police, Miss Bennett. We only need to ask what you saw at Bellario's tonight, and who else you told." The second man's hand was still inside his coat when the stairwell door opened. 2 of Nico's men stepped into the hallway. "Hands where we can see them," the older one said. The strangers turned, but there was nowhere to go. Within seconds, both were against the wall, searched and disarmed. Lily watched through the peephole, one hand covering her mouth. Nico's number connected in her other hand. "Lily?" His voice was calm, but she heard movement around him. "Do not open the door." She almost laughed from shock. "Your men are already here." There was a short silence. "I had your building watched from the moment you left Bellario's." Lily did not know whether to feel relieved or angry. Before she could decide, the taller stranger looked at her door and said, "Greco will not stop with us." 20 minutes later, Nico arrived and walked Lily downstairs himself. His men had removed the strangers without waking the neighbors. Nico opened the car door, but Lily remained on the sidewalk. "You had people following me. Protecting you," he corrected, without asking. "You refused when I asked." She remembered the hand disappearing beneath the stranger's coat. Nico saw the argument leave her face. "You can be angry somewhere safe," he said. Lily climbed in. He took her to a private office above Salerno Freight, overlooking warehouses along the river. It was warm, plain, and less grand than she expected. Nico gave her coffee, then placed the gunman's phone on the desk. "You were right to call." The phone contained only 4 numbers, but one unfinished message changed everything. "Table confirmed. Tuesday protection absent." It had been sent to a prepaid number tied to Salvatore Greco, a rival fighting Nico for 2 freight terminals. The gunman had also spoken after his arrest, once he realized Greco had abandoned him. "He knew my table, arrival time, and the one night my people stayed away," Nico explained. "That did not come from watching the street once. Someone had studied him for months." Nico's people were checking drivers, accountants, and men who had served him for years. Everyone had been where he claimed on Tuesday nights. Lily stared at the sleeping river. Nico was searching for a traitor in suits and expensive cars. But the person who knew his table only needed access to Bellario's. "Antonio," Lily said. Nico stopped beside the window. "The maître d'. Every Tuesday, 3 minutes before you arrive, he goes outside and makes a call. I've seen it for weeks." Nico's eyes narrowed. "Why didn't you mention it?" "Restaurant workers make private calls. It didn't matter until someone knew your routine." Antonio had been borrowing money, asking for advances, and opening final notices at work. 2 months earlier, Lily found him alone in the wine cellar, with his face in his hands. He claimed his mother was sick. She believed him because she understood medical debt. Now she remembered that Antonio always returned before Nico entered, but never greeted him until the first espresso had been served. He had not been avoiding work. He had been avoiding the man he was betraying. Lily had seen the leak every Tuesday without knowing its name. They returned to Bellario's shortly after 2 in the morning. Police tape remained near the bar, but the dining room was empty and silent. Antonio was still in his office, supposedly completing reports for the insurance company. When Nico entered with Lily, the maître rose too quickly and knocked a glass from his desk. "Mr. Salerno, I thought you had gone home." Nico placed the gunman's phone in front of him. Who did you call at 8:12? Antonio stared at the phone, and then at Lily. The fear in his face became an answer before he spoke. My sister. Lily shook her head. You told me you were an only child when we filled out the insurance forms. Antonio's mouth opened, but nothing came out. Nico did not threaten him. He simply pulled out a chair and sat. You can tell me the truth once, he said. After that, other people will ask. Antonio lasted less than a minute. He owed $68,000 to betting rooms controlled by Greco's men. At first, they asked harmless questions. What Nico drank, when he arrived, whether he came alone. Then they began paying Antonio for photographs of seating charts and security schedules. Each payment reduced his debt. I never knew they would send someone into the restaurant, he insisted, crying now. They said they only wanted to frighten you away from the merger. Nico's face remained still, but Lily saw his right hand tighten around the arm of the chair. 30 people could have died because you needed a gambling debt erased. Antonio looked at Lily as if she might save him. She felt pity, but not enough to lie. You watched me carry that check, she said. You knew what could happen to me afterward, and you said nothing. Antonio lowered his eyes. That silence hurt more than his confession. While Nico's men checked Antonio's bank records in the office, Lily waited with Nico at his usual table. The 5 circled words remained folded in his pocket. Everyone who has ever helped me wanted something, he said after a long silence. Money. Protection. A favor returned later. Even loyalty has a price in my life. Lily studied the careful man sitting beneath the brass clock. And now you cannot understand why a waitress helped you for free. I cannot understand why you stayed after you knew what I was. Lily did not tell him he was good. She did not pretend his world was harmless. Maybe I stayed because I'm still deciding what you are. Nico looked at her, unguarded for one brief second. And what have you decided? Lily leaned back in the chair. That you should get used to someone doing the right thing, without sending an invoice. Something warm moved across his face, and this time he did not hide it. The office door suddenly opened. Nico's men had found a second payment made to Antonio that morning, 10 times larger than all the others. Antonio went pale when he saw the record. As they lifted him from his chair, panic broke what little control he had left. Tonight was only the first move, he blurted. Greco already has another team inside tomorrow's merger signing. He paid someone at the hotel, but I don't know who. The shooters are supposed to wait until Nico puts his name on the agreement. Nico rose slowly. The signing could not be canceled without destroying the deal, and showing every rival watching that Greco had frightened him into hiding. Lily saw the old stillness return to his face as he checked his watch. Morning was already beginning to lighten the windows, and Greco's men were waiting at a signing only 6 hours away. Nico had 6 hours to prepare for an attack he could not fully see. Canceling the merger would save him from the hotel, but it would also cost hundreds of workers their jobs and leave Greco in control of the 2 freight terminals they had fought over for years. By 5 in the morning, Bellario's had become a quiet command room. Maps of the Grand Marlow Hotel covered Nico's usual table, while his men checked service entrances, employee lists, cameras, and delivery records. You are not coming, Nico told Lily, when she pulled on her coat. Greco sent men to your apartment because of me. I will not carry you into another trap. Lily stood her ground. Your people searched everyone close to you and missed Antonio because they never looked at the staff. Greco already paid someone inside that hotel. Who notices service workers better than another service worker? Nico wanted to refuse. She could see it in his face. But the trap was no longer hidden, and Lily had already proven she could see what powerful men overlooked. They reached the Grand Marlow shortly after 7. The merger would be signed inside a private conference room on the 19th floor, before lawyers, port officials, and executives from 3 logistics companies. Nico's security took control of the elevators and loading dock without drawing attention. Lily remained beside Rocco, the older man who had protected her apartment, while every member of the hotel staff passed through a second identification check. 2 men carrying camera cases were stopped near the service elevator. The cases contained broken-down rifles, false press badges, and floor plans marked with Nico's seat. That discovery should have ended the threat, but Antonio had warned them about a team, not 2 men. Nico's people searched the roof, kitchens, ventilation rooms, and the empty suites above the conference floor. They found nothing else. At 8:45, Nico adjusted his cuffs and prepared to enter. "If anything feels wrong, you leave with Rocco," he told Lily. "No arguments." She nodded, although they both knew she had never been especially good at obeying him. The signing began at 9. Nico sat at the center of a long walnut table with the merger papers open before him. Lily watched through the glass wall of a smaller room across the corridor. Lawyers traded documents. Cameras clicked. Hotel servers moved quietly among the guests with coffee and water. Everything appeared ordinary. Then Lily saw the shoes. One server wore the same white jacket as the others, but beneath his black trousers were heavy tactical boots with reinforced toes. He held his coffee tray too stiffly, balancing it with both hands instead of letting it rest naturally across his palm. More important, he never checked the cups. Real servers watched the liquid, the guests, and the space around their elbows. This man watched Nico's right hand and the pen lying beside it. Lily looked at the name tag on his chest. Daniel. She had seen Daniel during the security check downstairs. The real Daniel was shorter, older, and had a gray mustache. The two men with rifles had been a distraction. The man carrying coffee was the one meant to get close. Lily stepped into the corridor and caught Rocco's sleeve. She did not point or raise her voice. The server approaching Nico. White jacket, tactical boots. That is not Daniel. Rocco touched his earpiece, and 3 security men began moving without looking toward the imposter. Inside the conference room, the false server reached the back of Nico's chair. His right hand slipped beneath the folded napkin covering the tray. Lily's heart stopped. Nico picked up the pen, as though he had noticed nothing. Just before he touched it to the agreement, Rocco entered carrying a folder and deliberately bumped the server's shoulder. Coffee spilled across the carpet. The tray tilted, revealing a compact pistol fitted beneath its rim. Nico's men seized the gunman before his fingers reached the grip and pulled him through the service door. No shot was fired. Most of the witnesses saw only an embarrassing accident. Nico glanced through the glass at Lily, then calmly signed his name. Greco's final trap had failed, because a waitress knew how another waiter should carry coffee. By noon, Salvatore Greco was attempting to leave Chicago from a private airfield. Nico could have sent men to stop him in the old way, the way everyone expected. Instead, he gave the gunman's phone, Antonio's recorded confession, the false hotel credentials, and the weapon to a federal investigator who had spent years trying to connect Greco to the ports. Greco was arrested before his plane left the ground. Nico's enemies would call that weakness, but Lily understood what it really was. He had chosen an ending that would not create another grieving daughter or another debt paid in blood. Antonio cooperated fully and entered protective custody while charges were prepared. Nico did not forgive him, but neither did he order anyone to hurt him. For the first time in years, the war over the terminals ended without a body being carried into the river. Yet when the danger was finally over, Nico did not look victorious. He looked tired. They stood alone beside the hotel windows, while morning traffic moved far below. Nico removed the 5-word warning from his pocket. The check was folded, stained, and soft along the edges from being handled. "Yesterday, I thought control meant knowing where every threat was," he said. "Then a waitress saw one sitting 10 feet behind me." Lily smiled gently. "You are welcome." Nico almost smiled back, but his expression remained serious. He told her the merger gave him a path out. It would take years to separate his legitimate freight companies from the men and agreements that had built them, but he intended to begin immediately. No more weapons moving through his warehouses. No more betting rooms protected by his name. "I do not expect you to believe I can change because I survived one night," he said. Lily looked at the careful man who had protected her, trusted her judgment, and chosen evidence over revenge. "Good," she replied. "Change is something you prove slowly." Nico nodded. "Then I hope you will stay long enough to watch me prove it." That evening, Bellario's reopened. The broken glass was gone, the bar had been polished, and Nico's usual table waited beneath the brass clock. His security remained outside and near the kitchen, close enough to protect him, but far enough to give him privacy. This time, Lily was not wearing her uniform. She sat across from him in a simple blue dress that fit her soft curves without hiding them. Nico had asked her to dinner rather than ordering it, and she had accepted only after making him promise there would be no background checks, secret drivers, or men watching her apartment without permission. "You negotiate harder than port lawyers," he told her. "I learned from 2 years of customers arguing over coupons." For the first time, his laugh came without restraint. They talked about Frank, about Lily's dream of clearing the last medical bill, and about the ordinary life Nico had once believed was impossible for someone like him. For one peaceful hour, neither of them looked toward the door. When dinner ended, the new waitress brought the check and placed it beside Nico. He paid it, then turned the paper over and slid it across to Lily with a pen. "Your turn," he said. "Circle something. Write whatever you want." Lily looked at the man who had spent 2 years asking about her night before asking for his check. 1 day earlier, 5 words had saved his life. Now she wrote 4 more beneath them and pushed the paper back. "Sit with me, Nico." He read the message twice. The stillness she once found frightening broke completely, replaced by a warm smile that made him look less like the most dangerous man in Chicago and more like a lonely man finally being invited home. Nico reached across the table and took her hand, carefully enough to give her every chance to pull away. Lily did not, and if you believe one honest act of kindness can reach even the most guarded heart, subscribe and stay with us for the next story.